Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Ward 4 City Hall Community Meeting. My name is Victoria McGregor, and I'm the meeting coordinator. Thank you for taking the time tonight out of your busy schedules to be here with us. For those attending for the first time, the City Hall Community Meetings are a gateway meeting. It's an opportunity to meet and speak with your neighbors, the mayor, city staff, who will be touching on various topics tonight as they provide high-level updates related to their ongoing work. After each presentation, we'll take an initial question or two. Following all presentations, we will open up again to a general Q&A. If you haven't grabbed a copy of slides already, they're on this front table on the left. Bathrooms are in this left corner here. And before we begin, I did want to invite Councillor Klingon up to say hello.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It's great to see so many people out here. As I said, last one of these in the spring, it's just great to be able to get back together after 2020 and 2021 and with the pandemic and the disconnection between our community. It's really good to get together. So thanks to the mayor for continuing this. I don't have much. I'm excited about a couple of things. One thing I want to say, though, I want to give a shout out to the Somerville Police. After a rocky spring, our Somerville PD, we work closely together around the issues in Ward 4. As you know, there was a shooting up on Broadway early in the spring, and they were able to, keep the neighborhood calm and safe, and so we hadn't had any incidents through the summer. So I want to thank the SPD for that. Thank you. And the other thing I want to mention is I don't know if you might have seen the fence around 299 Broadway. That's the Star Market site. And the significance of that fence is that, as you all know, you may have been to meetings where there's a developer who has a plan in place that is still in the works. But that aside, the fact that the fence went up is because they officially purchased the property. So James Cohen is no longer in the people's lives of Somerville. He was the property. He was the property owner who, just stubborn, steadfast, didn't want to work with the community on anything. So it's really exciting to see that those changes made, and looking forward to hopefully Mark Development coming forward soon with plans to move forward on the Star Market site. That and just rats. I know rats are a huge issue. They're a huge issue for me. I threw away my grill because there was a rat in it. My wife wouldn't use it after that. They're everywhere. They're in 10 Hills. You're probably going to hear from the rat czar about that. But the reason I mention it is because, sort of great minds type of thing, think alike. I've been pushing the administration to do like a de-ratification week, which is basically a way that we could educate new-coming residents who maybe they're from the suburbs, they don't know about rats, they don't know what, that rats eat dog poop, or that they, anything could be a food source, your apple tree. So basically, they have also been working behind the scenes on a similar information campaign. So hopefully we're going to be rolling this out with a rollout in the spring of like a really sort of public effort to make sure property owners are getting that information to tenants, and make sure that everybody's educated on how we can work together, because it really is, it's either everybody together or it's just a long sustained battle with these little critters. So big critters. Well, yeah, big critters. So that's it for me. Really excited to hear what's going on in the city. I'm sure you'll get some great updates. And with that, I will turn it over to her. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll turn it back to our great MC.
Thank you, Councillor. A reminder that if we don't get to your question tonight, or if you prefer email for follow-up or giving feedback on our meetings, we do have a special email for this. It's cm@somervillema.gov. Feel free to send us your question and we'll get you in touch with the appropriate department. Tonight's meeting is also being recorded and will be available after the completion of the fall meeting series, which is after November 2nd. You can find all recordings on the City TV's government YouTube channel. Before we dive into main presentations, I do have a quick series of city updates for you. First is that Voting is open for the city's first ever participatory budgeting process. More than 900 ideas were submitted by the Somerville community, and this summer budget delegate volunteers work closely with the city to determine the final 20 that are on the current ballot. Voting is open until this Friday, October 13th, and can be done online, over the phone by calling 311, or in person on a paper ballot at any Somerville Public Library branch or at City Hall. To learn more about that process and to vote online, you can visit somervillema.gov/PB. Next slide, the table on the left includes several key dates for the upcoming 2023 election season, including deadlines to apply to register to vote by mail, early voting dates, and the city election, which is on Tuesday, November 7th. Blue ballot boxes have been placed around the city and are checked regularly. We welcome you to utilize these for election items. This next slide, I do want to point out, my apologies, there is an error. For a few precincts in Ward 4, we do have new polling place locations. Precinct 4-2 and 4-2A are going to be at the Pearl Street Park building, and 4-3 will be at the Brazilian Presbyterian Church. We'll make sure that that slide gets updated and posted on the community meeting webpage, but you can also find all election-related information. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, that was the other thing I meant to mention with the changes. I'm really concerned about people knowing where to vote. So the Secretary of State's little tool they use, it is reflective of the new locations. But for seniors, anybody who's not computer savvy, if you call 311, they should be able to look that up for you. So yeah, so just want to make sure everybody knows. Different situation this year with the Winter Hill being closed, unfortunately, but we'll get it done.
Thank you, Councilor. Yeah, again, everything related to elections you can find at somervillema.gov/elections. For the 2023-2024 school year, Somerville Recreation's offering a variety of programs and activity options at various locations. Teens can access these programs through the General Teen Center membership as well as the Powder House Teen Center membership. Both are free, and a reminder that the teen room at the Somerville Public Library Central Branch is also open with regular programming. These next two slides feature current career training opportunities from the Somerville Center for Adult Learning Experiences, also known as SCALE, which is a part of the school district. Topics include patient experience in healthcare, information technology, basic accounting, and college readiness. These are free career training opportunities for Somerville residents. We have flyers on this table on the left if you're interested in a particular program, or you can follow the QR code on these slides. Oh, sorry, I think I went out of order. So the Historic Preservation Commission hosts weekly docent tours through October at Milk Grove Cemetery, Prospect Hill Tower, and Old Powder House. All dates and times can be found on the city calendar. Somerville's docent program is also seeking volunteers. If you're interested, please email Brandon at bwilson@somervillema.gov. This next slide features the next event which is happening this weekend, the Union Square Walking Tour. Again, if you're interested in participating in that, please email Brandon at bwilson@somervillema.gov. Health and Human Services is holding several flu vaccine clinics throughout October and November. We have some dates listed here. If you are interested in getting a vaccine, you can register at somervillema.gov/vaccines. A quick update on housing. The last 2 years have been active in terms of affordable housing production. This slide provides basic information on housing units created in the last 2 years. 265 in total, with 242 being rental units and 23 homeownership opportunities. If you would like to get on the Housing Division's listserv for new housing opportunities, you can sign up by going to the city's website and searching inclusionary housing. Some upcoming city events I wanted to highlight. That Summer Street's Monster Mash is on Sunday, October 22nd, which will feature a Halloween parade led by the School of Honk, music activities, and more. Then on Thursday, October 26th, we have Trick or Treat. You can join city staff on the City Hall concourse. To stay in touch with us, a reminder that we do have a weekly newsletter. Somerville departments and divisions also have their own newsletters. You can follow the QR code or visit somervillema.gov/subscribe to sign up to any and all that interests you. A reminder that we also are on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or X. We encourage you to follow us on the platforms that you use to keep up with all things Somerville. Okay, that's it for me. So now I will turn it over to Mayor Ballantyne.
Good evening, everyone. It's wonderful to see you. I want to also acknowledge before we start that there are some more elected officials in the room this evening. State Representative Christine Barber is with us today. Councilor at Large Kristen Strezzo. Councilor at Large Willie Burnley. Is there any other elected that I missed? Oh, sorry. And Councilor at Large Jake Wilson in the back. Thank you. So as some of you know, I do a little icebreaker so we all know who's in the room, and maybe you make some friends. Actually, that's the number one goal. If there's someone you haven't spoken to or met, or someone you don't know, just go up and introduce yourself to them, and start a conversation. Ask them why they're here tonight. So I would ask, would you raise your hand if this is your very first community meeting? Wow, wonderful. Thank you for coming. Would you raise your hand if you've lived in Somerville less than a year? Okay, thank you for coming. Very first year. All right. If you've lived here less than 2 years, 5 years, okay, 10 years or less, okay, 20 years or less, 25 years or less. Ooh, good. How about over 25 years? Okay. How about if you've lived here your entire life? Raise your hand. Wonderful. Woo! Thank you. If you are a parent, raise your hand. If you're a parent of a child in the Somerville Public Schools, raise your hand. Okay. If you're a pet owner, raise your hand. If you have walked the new community path, raise your hand. If you've ridden your bike on the community path, raise your hand. Okay. And do you have a question? Does anybody want to ask for, to learn about someone in our community? Plenty of questions. We'll take Q&A at the end. But is there something that you want to ask of our neighbors here in the room? No? Okay. I'm sure you'll think of many as you go along. So what I'd like to do next is introduce our city staff who are here. There are a few of them that are here who are not going to be presenting, but they're here to answer any questions you might have, so please seek them out. So what I'd like to do is ask all city staff to stand, and I'm going to have them introduce themselves, and this is a quick round robin here. Introduce themselves and what department they're from. So let's start here. Loud voices.
Hi everyone, my name is Leonore. I'm the Community Engagement Specialist for the Department of Racial and Social Justice.
Hi everyone, Nick Aleko with the Department of Communications.
Victor Nascimento with Planning and Preservation.
Steve Smith, Strategic Planning and Equity Manager of the Rose PC.
Gina Cortese, Project Manager in the Engineering Division. Denise Molina Capers, I'm the Director of the Department of
urban forestry. Melissa Woods, Capital Projects.
Colin Ziegler, ISD Health.
Brian Pistoway, engineering. Brian Ross with the city's mobility division.
Charlie Green, Fire Chief.
Charlie Kevin, police chief.
Jim Dunn, Captain Police Department.
Ben Demers, Economic Development.
Oh, that was fun.
Patty, the community outreach at Central Police, also on the public safety for all task force.
Nick Salerno, Elections Commissioner.
Tom Galligani, Mayor's Office of Strategic Planning and Community Development.
I'm Molly Kelly, I'm a zoning worker at the council on aging.
I'm Eric Larson, out of the Office of Sustainability and Environment.
The slides that I'm going to be speaking on this evening are not in the handouts that you have. They will be posted on the website starting tomorrow. So if you want a copy, you'll be able to see them there. And we keep this up for years, so you can always go back and look at the slides. So this evening, climate change is a local issue with local impacts and local solutions. So we're being impacted in many ways. And I know we all lead full lives. I acknowledge that climate change might not be what every family is talking about at the dinner table. That's why I'm so glad that you're here today, because we're going to talk about how the city is working to address the impacts of climate change, the effects on our daily lives and to Somerville residents, businesses, and property owners. To start, I have two more questions. I'm wondering if you would just raise your hand if you're familiar with climate change. Okay, thanks. Now raise your hand if you're concerned about how climate change is impacting or will impact our community. Thank you. I'll share that I would have raised my hand for both of these questions also. As a mother of two daughters, I'm very worried about the kind of planet we will be leaving behind for our children. And as mayor and before as city councilor, I have long felt a deep sense of duty to strive to address both climate impacts we're seeing right now, as well as those projected to come over time. Climate change is complex and it's a broad challenge, so I'm heartened to see that our residents are also looking for solutions. I'm going to start out by just giving us a little bit of grounding information. It's the determination to act that I'm going to focus on tonight. So just to ground us a little bit. Climate change refers to a long-term shift in the temperatures and weather patterns. Such shifts can be natural due to events like large volcanic eruptions. But since the 1800s, human activity has been the main driver of climate change. And that's been primarily due to burning fossil fuels like coal, oil, and gas. Burning fossil fuels generates greenhouse gas emissions, and those gases collect like a blanket wrapped around the earth, and they trap in the sun's heat and rising temperatures. Warmer temperatures contribute to extreme weather, as we all saw happen this past year. And the most important thing to know is that we can still limit our impact on climate change if we act now. And so we're seeing these impacts, around the world at home. We know about the mass flooding over in Western Massachusetts. That's that slide. And these are pictures of Somerville when we had flooding. One example of the local impact one example of what a local impact could mean for us is our 2022 hazard mitigation study projects that if Somerville were to receive a direct hit from a Category 2 hurricane, we could see more than $125 million in damage and lost productivity, and we could see more than 500 households displaced. On this next slide, far from the headlines, we're also seeing the impacts to the work of the city. With increased frequency in storms, our water and sewer department has had to significantly ramp up hours dedicated to preventing and addressing flooding. They have had to be sure that before every forecast storm that we clear our more than 3,600 catch basins across the city to keep water drainage working. They have also had to increase overtime to handle flood calls during and after the storms. Our inspectional services department is now responding to more basement floods, including basement level apartments, more mold issues leading to air quality issues, more freezing pipes that can do thousands of dollars worth of damage, increased rodent activity exacerbated by our warmer winters, and monitoring of additional stress on building materials from temperature swings. Over in our DPW department, after decades, we've had to change our dress code to address extreme heat and cold for our outdoor crews. They now wear shorts when it's safe to do so, are supplied with quality clothing for winter, wicking shirts and cooling towels in the summer, and when needed, we alter the timing of work assignments. They are now monitoring for and addressing more extreme weather-induced failures like cracked windows, flooding, and storm-damaged trees. Likewise, our communication and outreach staff have had to include messaging in preparedness and warning for a range of issues triggered by extreme heat, cold, storms, and more. As an administration, we've been monitoring these impacts and dedicating funding and staffing where needed to meet these new demands. We created a new position for rodent control in inspectional services, DPW and emergency communications as a direct result. Again, this is just a sampling. There are impacts across our operations citywide. In short, we are not sitting back and waiting for climate change to surprise us. So let me zoom into what we're doing in the big picture about climate change. Our Climate Forward Plan is a roadmap for our climate action efforts. The plan has 3 key areas of action. It's designed to reduce Somerville's contribution to climate change and work towards making Somerville carbon net negative by 2050. I want to be clear, when I took office, our plans were to be carbon neutral, but we are now striving to be carbon net negative. It's also designed to prepare Somerville for unavoidable impacts of climate change, and it centers equity within all its efforts. What that means is we are always striving to fairly distribute the opportunities created by climate action, such as new jobs or energy-saving programs or educational outreach. So as we are guided by these 3 key principles of action, we are focused on 5 areas to target our efforts. Our buildings, number 1, transportation and mobility, number 2, the environment is number 3, community is number 4, and leadership is number 5. So what does that look like so far? This tells you about, our emissions. So 63% comes from buildings, 33% from transportation, and 4% from waste. To reach our goals to be carbon net negative by 2050, we are striving to eliminate nearly all our emissions. That's a tall order, but we have a path. To start, we are working to reduce building emissions in a number of ways. In our city buildings, we've been steadily reducing energy use and shifting to renewable energy sources. For example, last week I was at a ribbon cutting to sign a contract to get 30% of our municipal electricity from a local Massachusetts solar farm. For private homes and properties, we've been aiding the shift to renewables in a number of ways. Our teams offer programs to assist renters, homeowners, and with accessing energy saving programs. Somerville Community Choice Electricity Program offers competitively priced renewable energy options, and you can sign up for it anytime. There are more than 760 net zero passive housing units in construction in Somerville right now, with more than 161 of those units slated to be affordable. We've built requirements and incentives into our zoning for energy efficient construction. We have 50 certifiable LEED Gold and Platinum building developments. This year, we were one of the first 4 communities in Massachusetts to adopt and enact the Specialized Energy Code. And Somerville was the first in New England to establish a green score in construction, and that is part of the zoning code, which incentivizes the inclusion of elements that reduce heat island, manage stormwater, and filter pollutants. The city is also working to make it easy for our community to choose low-carbon ways to travel. The idea isn't to tell people what to do, but rather to make green choice an easy option. Our efforts have focused on installing priority bus lanes to make bus travel faster and more reliable, extending the Green Line, expanding the bike network, making pedestrian safety improvements, whether that's streetscape design, better crosswalk striping, or establishing safe routes to school. Pursuing Vision Zero, which is an effort to prevent all serious injuries and deaths on our roadways. And we're also studying how best to expand electric vehicle charging station network. As we work to prepare ourselves for climate impacts, addressing our environment and our infrastructure is key. We are tackling multiple water and sewer projects to reduce flooding, planting trees to keep our neighborhoods cooler in extreme heat, removing 6 trees. Last year we planted over 637. We're expanding green space to help keep our neighborhoods cooler and provide permeable surfaces to absorb rainwater and reduce flooding. As we see climate impacts on our smallest creatures and plants, we are also working to preserve and develop our local habitat and a plant native species to support biodiversity. That includes creating pollinator gardens for insects, including butterflies and bees, like the one that's at Conway Park, which is shown here in on the slide. We've established a pollinator action plan and advisory committee to guide these efforts. We've increased the number of native species in our urban canopy and native species in our public spaces because we passed a native species ordinance. We're also integrating green infrastructure into our streetscapes and parks. Additions like rain gardens and swales can catch stormwater to reduce flooding. Waste also contributes to greenhouse gases by producing methane as it decays in landfills. Last year, the city completed a community first zero waste plan and to set a goal to reduce waste by 100% by 2050. And finally, the Mystic River presents coastal flooding risk for us. And I'll share more about that in a moment. For the citywide flooding risk, we have numerous aggressive efforts underway to reduce its impact. And they're focused on 3 areas. They include targeted projects to improve drainage in specific areas or neighborhoods, such as the work that's being done at Cedar Street, the community path, or under the Washington Street Bridge. New drainage projects include the new Mystic outfall to reduce flooding in Ward 4. The Morrison Ave tank will reduce flooding in Davis Square and on Morrison Ave. We're also undertaking a major multi-million-dollar sewer system upgrades. This includes Somerville Ave Drainage Improvement Project, the Poplar Street Pump, which is over project, which is over in the Brick Bottom area, and that pump station will serve roughly 2/3 of the city's wastewater, and a citywide sewer separation, which both improves water quality and reduces flooding. This map shows Somerville's areas most likely to flood in a 100-year storm. That means like really intense rainfall. They include parts of Assembly, Union Square, and Davis Square. We're not just sitting back and waiting for this to surprise us. We're currently hiring our first sustainability and resilience planner to expand our work to tackle these challenges. We are also working with the region. We have to do a regional approach to address coastal flooding risks. We are one of the founding members of the Resilient Mystic Collaborative that's organized by the Mystic River Watershed Association. With the help of our federal and state delegation, this collaboration has and continues to raise millions for 3 critical projects that will protect more than 100,000 residents and more than $60 billion in property. The 3 projects include the Amelia Earhart Dam, which you see in the picture, the green space to the right, which is called Draw 7 Park, up there, with stormwater management features to help prevent storm surge from flanking the dam. And as a bonus, it also includes expansion of a multi-use path. And finally, the 3rd project will create coastal protection for Island End River, just east of us, on the border between Everett and Chelsea. For the region, this is where the bulk of our produce is processed at the New England Produce Center. The industrial district generates an estimated $7 billion annually in economic activity, and it already floods during coastal storms and king tides. More than 15,000 low-income residents live within this area. This project will protect these homes and this vital food center from coastal storms and sea level rise. Our climate forward efforts also focus on community. They range from offering programs and outreach that support a healthy and resilient community, such as a warming and cooling center, resiliency programs like Keep Cool and Flood Ready that offer educational outreach. The creation of this year of a new emergency shelter displacement fund to assist residents with nowhere else to go if they need emergency housing due to issues such as fire, floods, and burst water pipes. And finally, we're working to grow the culture of climate action, whether that's through the Climate Ambassador Program, the Mayor's Youth Summer Jobs Program, or engaging residents like you in shaping our climate forward plan. Really, everything we are doing around climate change, though, is focused on the health and resiliency of our community. Which brings me to the leadership goal of the Climate Forward Plan. We are focused on 3 main areas of leadership. The first is city government leading by example. When we shift our vehicles to electric, put solar arrays on top of schools, or cut energy use, that's the city walking the walk. The second is regional collaboration. like our joint efforts to address coastal flooding, or the work I and our staff do through a range of organizations like the Metro Mayors Coalition. And of course, leadership includes advocating for carbon neutrality and carbon action at the state level. Somerville has received the highest rating for our climate leadership and transparent reporting from a global nonprofit called CDP that sets standards for environmental reporting. Whenever and wherever we can weigh in, we do. We are fortunate that our federal and state delegation do the same. So what's next?